tomorrow it is the Anfield Wrap with me, Beth Lindop, after Liverpool 3, Brighton and Hove Albion 0 in the FA Cup. I'm joined by Stu, by Kev and by Joel. It's nice to be discussing a Liverpool win and a strong Liverpool performance as well. There haven't been too many of those this season, so hopefully it'll be a nice positive show today. Liverpool, a nice freewheeling performance, some might say, and the brakes were off. And if you want to take the brakes off and freewheel, Peloton might be the partner for you. So last year, Peloton launched a new product line, the Cross Training Series, which is powered by Peloton IQ. Peloton IQ helps you to train smarter and grow stronger by generating self-paced custom workouts, tracking reps and giving live form feedback, bringing you your own trainer wherever you work out. So also don't forget we do have our own team on Peloton, so search for the Anfield Wrap, and we also have a group on Telegram. There we share tips, plan live rides together and also have exciting giveaways. It was only last month that we gave away 6 tickets to the Liverpool-Newcastle game to 3 lucky Anfield Wrap and Peloton users. So come and join us. Any trouble finding those groups, message John, he loves being harassed. And thanks obviously to Peloton for partnering with us for a second year, the official strength and cardio partner of Liverpool. Right, we'll dive into the game then, Joel. I want to start off in this first part looking at the individuals, because there were some really strong individual performances on Saturday. And Milos Kerkez, I mean, we were someone mentioned that before we came on air that he wasn't in Ali McCoy's shortlist for the man of the match, which seems criminal really, because it was arguably his best performance of the season maybe, but it does feel like we've said that a few times over the past few weeks, which is maybe a testament to how well he's doing at the moment.
Absolutely. I'm feeling very vindicated because I was a strong defender of Kerkez early on. I think when he first came into the club, I think he was just trying so hard, and that's why I can see a young player who's just trying to find his feet and is doing everything he can. But I think he's going to be a player that I think all fans will love. He does everything at 100%. You know, he'll throw himself into any tackle. He's running up and down the pitch like a madman. But I think what was most promising yesterday was he's starting to build a bit of a relationship and combination with Gakpo. I think what you saw, so many of those sort of inside runs when Gakpo was really wide, and then of course we get the first goal from that. And I think you're really starting to see his quality. I think his delivery into the box has been a bit lacking, I think, so far this season. Obviously, the first goal shows that he has got a good ball in him. I think it's never going to be as precise as maybe Andy Robertson. I think, he's going to go down as one of the best sort of deliverers of a ball from left back. But I think what Kerkez does, he gets it in quickly and he gets it in early. And I think once our forwards and midfielders start to have that understanding, you'll start to see, more goals like sort of we saw from Curtis Jones on the weekend. And he was just non-stop all game. Even the second goal, the reason Gakpo can cut in and play that pass is because Kerkez is making the run to pull the defender away. And yeah, I'm really, bought into him fully, and I think I can see a really big game from him. I reckon in a big cup game, big league game, we're going to be coming off going, yeah, Kerkez was man of the match there, put everything in. I think he'll be a fan favourite for sure. Yeah,
Joel mentions there his attitude, Kevin, and how he is non-stop. And I spoke to a few people in the summer who'd worked with him before he joined the club, and the one thing that came out of it was just his mentality and how he can be relentless and a little bit wild, but in a good way, and he harnesses that in a good way. And I think that's what we've started to see now, is maybe there were times in his early performances where he did want it too much. He maybe was trying a little bit hard, and that didn't always translate into top performances. But I think now he seems to be finding that right balance between aggression and energy and passion, but also real quality on the ball as well.
Yeah, and scrappy do is what I've seen online, by the way, which I love. I'm all for that. I like players with a little bit of bite and a little bit of aggression who aren't too nice, and I think that's important in this team because we can be guilty of being a little bit too nice, a little bit too professional. But in terms of his development and how he's progressed through the season, I think it reminds us all that we do need a little bit of patience with young players that come in, even if they've come in from the Premier League. And I know I'm talking about the best left back in the league last season, but coming to Liverpool's a next step, and it's a new chapter for him, and his development's been really strong. I think I saw the manager touch on his development through Andy Robertson as well, which is what you want leaders in the team for. Ultimately, you want Andy Robertson behind him, giving him a bit of praise, maybe a bit of criticism, a little bit of improvement. But yeah, I thought his performance was faultless. I'm quite surprised by how quick his feet are, I felt like Saturday was the first time that I was like, you can really wriggle out of a situation just with quick feet. A lot of really, really smart decisions as well. It's not just his tackling, it's knowing where space is, knowing where his opposition players are and find that little bit of space. I thought he was great for the goal as well, obviously, because that's a deflection, isn't it? It comes off the defender and he's the first one to it and he's in. And yeah, you need that awareness. And look, I hope he just comes on, strength to strength, because he's for me, he's a very astute typical Liverpool signing.
Yeah, Virgil van Dijk, Stuart was asked about him in the mix zone after the game, and he got asked what his personality was like, and Virgil just sort of laughed, and then said, he's young, he's got a lot of energy, which you can just imagine around the training ground, can't you? I think he is almost like an excitable puppy sometimes, and you can imagine the likes of Virgil and Robertson sometimes just thinking like, calm down a little bit. But Virgil did, speak quite nicely about how both him and Robertson have had conversations with him earlier on in his career, and that maybe has benefited him, but also his own development as well. And I think it obviously has been a tough season, and there hasn't always been things that fans have felt they could get behind. And I think in Kerkez, you have a player that you really can get behind, and his grit and his energy is exactly what you want to see from players on the pitch.
Yeah, I love him.
Yeah,
I absolutely love him. I think a lot of the criticism has been incredibly unfair, because you've got to contextualise it. He's come in as such a young player. He's been bought to replace, in my opinion, certainly the greatest left-back of my lifetime. And I've seen a fair few. But the greatest left-back in Liverpool's history in my lifetime, which is no easy gig. And a fan's favourite in Robbo as well, a real leader. So he's come into a broken dressing room as well after what's gone on in the summer. He's got a situation where Virgil, to his right, is not now just having to think about supporting him and guiding him through, because he's got problems to his right. Yeah. The form of the other side and the consistency of the selection on the other side of him, a full-back, but also Konaté's form, has been in and out. So Virgil's had that to contend with. And when I think back to Andy Robertson's best time at Liverpool, he had this left-sided triangle of Mane, Wijnaldum and him, that really, they all knew each other's game, they complemented each other's strengths and weaknesses, and they worked as a unit, and he hasn't had that. If you look in that Wijnaldum position this season, it's McAllister, and McAllister's, it's been his worst season at Liverpool. Definitely. Yeah. And then the relationship we've all commented on throughout the season, the relationship with Gakpo just hasn't been functioning. For whatever reason, that just hasn't worked. So I think, being thrown in at the deep end at such a young age is an understatement. I think he's great. I think there's been a lot of unfair criticism towards him being brainless as well. Yeah. I don't think he's brainless. I just think he's got an unfortunate face at times. I think that, defensively, he's a rash. We've all seen it. He's an absolute rash, in the same way that they talk about Martin Keown being a rash. Mm. He's the type of defensive player that I just don't think you can shake off. That scrappy-do kind of mentality. He's all over you. And he doesn't give up. And yes, he's been a bit rash himself at times going in for the tackle, but I've seen him going for tackles 6 inches off the floor with his head. I mean, nobody can doubt his commitment. And I think one of the biggest differences that we've seen from him compared to last season is offensively the crossing. Okay, we were all anticipating getting this player who delivered a wonderful ball, but I don't think he's been given the opportunity. Partly because of that breakdown in the relationship with Gakpo that just hasn't functioned, but also what he's been asked to do. Most of the time, he's been asked to come inside, so he's coming into slightly left of central areas. Even last night, when the ball breaks for him, it wasn't a Liverpool move that, by the way, that put him down the left-hand side so he could cross a ball 5 yards from the touchline. That wasn't a successful Liverpool move. That was a breakdown of a move that ended up with him pulling out there. But he was actually tucked in before that move, before the ball went loose. But then when you see him actually get 5 yards from the touchline, the type of ball that he can whip in, that's what we thought we were getting. But too often, he's either inside or he's having to cross from deep. He's crossing from like 20 yards from the byline, which he's all right at. But I tell you what, you get him close to the byline. And that was unbelievable ball, unbelievable cross that yesterday. So yeah, I'm a big fan. I think we should expect bumps in the road. He's so young, But I'm glad he's on our team, and I'm glad he's a player that we can develop for the future. I think we've got a real talent, and I think he's going to be dead fun to watch.
Yeah, and I think he put a lovely comment on actually after the game on social media. And one thing I do quite like about him is obviously now most players have sort of social media managers and stuff, which I'm sure he does too. But I think you can still tell that a lot of his sort of posts are written by him. Because, sometimes we can see the language barrier just ever so slightly, but he wrote something at the end of the game on Saturday saying he's enjoying more and more playing in the stadium, and I think that confidence maybe will help him from an offensive point of view as well. And you mentioned Robbo there being a fan favourite, and I think having him, there's a lot of debate. Some people still think he should be the starting left back. I don't necessarily think that. I think Kerkez has taken that shirt for me now, but I think Robertson has shown, as he did against Sunderland, that he can still be a top player, and I think that having that balance between the two could be really important between now and the end of the season. If there's a game where Kerkez maybe needs a rest, or emotionally maybe he's not quite at it, Robertson is a fantastic option to be able to bring in, isn't he?
Definitely, and I think we are very, very loyal to our loyal players as well. So it almost feels like, in our heart of hearts, praising Kerkez is almost cheating on Robertson.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. I think it's okay to help this lad through, and I think he'll become a fan favourite. I think the manager could and should have used Robertson more than he has this season to protect Kerkez and to guide him through. Definitely, I think that is a thing. But I think now we are starting to see that Kerkez has ridden that storm. I think we're now starting to see the best of him. I'd love Andy Robertson to stay. I don't think that's going to be a thing, but the idea that he could stay and be the mentor for the next couple of years to Kerkez would be amazing. Plus, I don't want Robertson out of the dressing room. I think we've already missed people like Milner and Henderson and Lallana. Their absences from the dressing room, I think they've definitely been missed, and Robertson's another one of those. But I just can't see it. Unfortunately, I do think we're probably coming towards the end of Andy Robertson's Liverpool career. Yeah,
it will be a sad day when that happens, but we've got them both for now, so that's a positive. And Kerkez does set up Joel Curtis-Jones for the opener, and again, it felt like a big moment for him. There's been so much talk about him over the past couple of months. He was obviously linked with a move away to Inter Milan in January. Liverpool, I think that it's been interpreted, I think, by some of the things that Slot has said, that maybe Liverpool aren't desperate to keep him because Slot hasn't necessarily been sort of really effusive in his praise for him. However, he did get asked on Friday, Slot, about Curtis-Jones, and he said, we want to keep him. He's in our plans not just for this season but for next season. And it just felt like a nice moment for him after all of that talk, after all of that speculation, to get that goal on Saturday.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a signed-up member of the Curtis-Jones fan club, so the rumours earlier on were worrying, and as Stu says, we really love sort of loyal players, and I think Curtis-Jones would give us that in bucket loads. So I really want to start to see him kick on. I think he can probably feel a bit hard done by, I think, in recent times. I think before he's had his injury, I should say, he was probably one of the best players in the team. I think the only maybe the slight reservation the manager has, I think, is from a fitness point of view. I think he seems to tire in games, and then he falls into sort of old habits of, chewing the ball, giving sloppy balls away. But I think yesterday, in an unconventional role for him, obviously playing at right back, he was really bright. I think he came on against Sunderland was bright also. So I hope he continues that going forward. I think one of the things he has been missing this season, I think, is that goal output, goal as an assist. So it's great that he got on the end of Kerkez's ball, and obviously it's been a while since we've seen both full-backs also linking up, so that was great. But yeah, I really like him. I think he's an assured head in the midfield. When he plays in midfield, he's great on the ball, and as I said, he works his socks off when he can, and hopefully he'll kick on for the rest of the season.
Yeah, he obviously does play at full-back on Saturday, Kevin. I think, like Joel said, it's always nice to see full-back to full-back. I'm sure the manager was happy with that. It shows sort of the attacking impetus that a team has when that happens. But where do you think, sort of over the next few months, because the manager said a few times that he's been unlucky that the only injuries that Liverpool haven't necessarily had this season have been in midfield. So whereas, players have been thrown in all over the pitch, it's not really happened in midfield. Do you think playing at right back is maybe a way for him to get a few more minutes over the next few weeks and months maybe?
I think it was the right pick for Saturday. I think it was the clever pick to have Dom as the six and the sort of box-to-box midfielder. When you've got the best, in my opinion, the best box-to-box midfielder in Europe in your team, you may as well use him there rather than at right back. And I think the manager's right. I don't agree with the manager using McAllister this season as much as he has, but that's Jones's replacement, I would say. So he has been unlucky in that regard. But in terms of what the manager's coming out and saying, I tend to take a bit of a pinch of salt, everything with a pinch of salt that he says, because he's not necessarily just communicating to us. It's not just the Liverpool fans he's talking to. He's got to placate a lot of different levels, hasn't he? Like the ownership, the press, us, the players. We don't know what he's saying face to face to players. And the only person that I've ever seen him praise, to the highest level is Alisson and Van Dijk, and to be fair, Salah as well. And those are players that just can't get any higher. They're the best. They're the best of the best. I think when he comes out and says things like that, I don't think Curtis will be taking that too seriously and too much to heart, because again, we don't know what he said behind closed doors. It's his future that I'm worried about, because I would keep Curtis Jones no matter what. I just think you throw the money at him. He's English, he's homegrown, he's from the academy. That's very rare. And if you look at replacing him, if people are talking about Elliott or Wharton, you're talking about a lot of money in replacing them. And you could maybe sell Curtis for what I don't know what it was for Inter, something like 40 million, which I think is really, really daft. I think it'd be upwards of 70 million if we were to sell Curtis Jones. But even then, it's the getting someone in and bedding them in, and the amount of time that takes. We just talked about how Kerkez is developing and how hard that is. Curtis Jones for me is a must keep. I wonder if his way in is if McAllister is leaving next season. If he he seems a little bit homesick. Throughout the start of the season, he looked like he was sort of moping about the place. He didn't look like he was enjoying his football. I think that would be fair. If he was sitting in the room, I would say that to him. I said, "Were you really enjoying your football?" A few of his friends left the club. He's had a tough year with the injury, stuff going on in his personal life. I think that's probably Curtis Jones's way in, is if McAllister's to leave. So he just needs to keep plugging away. I wouldn't necessarily say that right back's his way in. We'll see how the rest of the season goes, because the injuries haven't been lucky to us this season. So who knows? Maybe that's his other way in.
Yeah, Stu, one thing Arne Slot did say at the end of the game on Saturday was that he said Curtis Jones was a great player. He said, "I've said that to him," and he agreed, which made everyone laugh. But I think that sums up Curtis. He's never been someone who is shy of backing himself, and that's what you want from a player. And I think maybe that's fed into some of the rumours about him potentially leaving or not signing a new deal, is wanting more minutes, more game time. Where do you stand on it? Because I think personally I would be very sad if he did end up leaving in the summer, or further down the line when his contract expires. I think having a Scouser, and not just a Scouser but a very talented, capable Scouser in the team is important. And yeah, I'd like to be a resolution to be found there.
Yeah, me too. I'm a big fan of Curtis Jones. I think what he brings to the team is bravery of a certain form, really, because you'd always want players who will show, particularly in midfield, and when you're up against it, you want players who will back themselves, and you never ever get a sense, even if his form isn't there, get a sense that Curtis Jones is a player who hides. Curtis Jones goes looking for the ball, and he backs himself in every situation. At times, maybe he backs himself a little bit too much, but I think if that's his criticism, and that he holds on to it a little bit too much, I think, that's not a bad place to be as part of Liverpool's midfield pool of players. He should have been played more this season. There's been plenty. McAllister's played well in the last game, and I think he's had a good couple of performances of late, McAllister, but I think there's plenty of evidence to suggest Curtis Jones should have been played more in that position over the course of the season. If he feels a little bit poorly treated, a little bit like it's been a little bit unfair, and I'd sympathise with it. But what I loved was his interview post game. he basically came close to saying he'd play in goal for Liverpool if he was asked.
Yeah.
You know, there was no sense, because I've seen a lot of talk lately that, there must have been a fallout and all that. Well, there was no sense of that from him.
No.
He looked happy to be part of this squad. He looked happy to be picked wherever he's picked and contribute to the team. He was very humble as well in terms of the self-criticism over not scoring enough. And he should score more, definitely. He's got the ability to. But I think Liverpool losing him would be a mistake. I think there is a little bit of uncertainty around Liverpool's midfield, and I know we're going to come on to talk about Szoboszlai soon, but I think there is going to necessarily be a little bit of surgery in there, and I think there's question marks over who will remain. I think if it's Kerkez who goes, I think that's a mistake. Keeping a scout's heart in that squad is really important. Keeping a player who's brave, who no matter what will keep looking for it. He's one of us. I'd want him to stay.
Yeah. Well, we'll move on to another of the midfielders then, Kevin. I mean, he's probably been talked about on every single show this season, Dominic Szoboszlai, but he just continues to outdo himself, really. I mean, that second goal, for me, it's arguably Liverpool's goal of the season. Obviously, his sort of individual brilliance from free kicks aside, you know, the movement. Cody Gakpo gets a lot of stick, and you know, some of the criticism's been warranted, but it's a great ball from him out to Salah. It's a gorgeous touch then from Salah, and then Szoboszlai finishes it, and he's just a joy to watch, isn't he, at the moment?
He is, yeah. He's brilliant. I'll never get bored of talking about Dom Szoboszlai. Yeah, I would probably agree with you. Best open play goal from us, aside of his free kick, that free kick. It was a really good team goal in that you could see Ali play it out to Verge, and Verge is saying to Cody, come this way, don't make the run. And Cody's obviously got the vision of Salah out there before the ball even comes to him. The ball comes to him, it's an amazing hit. And what I found funny about it is, I didn't notice it at the ground, but when I watched it back, Dom's a bit like, I'm so wide open, how have you not passed that to me? And then he sees Salah and he's like, got you. And he's straight in there. I'd said it went in slow motion for me, because as he got the ball, as that lovely touch from Salah comes to him, and it's wide open, and you could see it on the telly as well, to be fair. I was going, don't even look, just hit it. I said it out loud, and he did, and the fella next to me said he must have heard you. But his vision's so good, he just didn't even need to look. He knew that the goalkeeper had half come, half not come, and the strike was so sweet. He just uses the pace of the ball, and what a finish it was. I think he's having a phenomenal season, and the fact that he's had to be used as this almost utility player for us in all these positions speaks volumes of the man and the season he's having. He's very selfless in that regard, which I quite like from the leadership's perspective. It's a good role model to have when you see somebody who's like Curtis, willing to fit into all these positions in order to help the team through a tough time. And what's great about him is the goals are coming. It's not just the set piece goals. If he's scoring from open play, that's brilliant as well. We know he's got it in him. He's got long distance shots in him. I love him. I think he's absolutely fantastic. And for me, I'm hoping that he becomes a future Liverpool captain if we can hang on to him.
Yeah, it does feel, Joel, like that he does have all the attributes to be a future captain. Obviously, he is still young. Arne Slot did say that after the game. He's still maybe got to be more vocal in the dressing room if he wants to be a leader. But in terms of what he's doing on the pitch, it's hard. You can't deny that he has been someone who's led by example this season. Another club who might be admiring him, if reports in the media are to be believed, are Real Madrid. It always seems a Liverpool player has a couple of good games and the Madrid rumours start up. This particular round of rumours stoked by Marco Rossi, who is the Hungary manager, who has revealed in an interview with Marca over the past few days that Dominic Szoboszlai's childhood ambition was always to play for Real Madrid, which, to be fair, you can understand. They were obviously, in his growing up, they were winning absolutely everything. Obviously, Puskás is the most famous Hungarian player and obviously a legend at Madrid. But I'll just read Rossi's comments. He says, Szoboszlai always had one single dream in his life, to play for Real Madrid. I've known him since he was a little boy who just started playing, and his dream was always Real Madrid. Now, I think he does go on to say, but, he's playing really well for Liverpool. Liverpool's a big club, blah, blah, blah. So I think that those quotes are the ones that have been sort of doing the rounds. It does feel like with he's obviously close friends with Trent, and again, it sort of led to a little bit of panic, I think, on social media that he could be off. What's your thoughts on Szoboszlai's long-term future? Can you see him staying and becoming a future captain, or do you think the law of Madrid could become too much at one point?
I hadn't seen those quotes, so that's rumour Monday. But look, I think it's difficult. Look, the Real Madrid is always going to be an attraction to all players for Liverpool. For anyone in the Premier League, that's just the reality of football. I think with Szoboszlai, I think he really suits the Premier League. I think, you know, the box-to-box nature of him, you know, he is a bit of a throwback to the archetypes of midfield that you saw in the Premier League, and you just hope that he can see the journey with Liverpool. I mean, the Gerrard comparisons, obviously, you know, always non-stop with him, and I think his goal catalogue that year is only sort of, you know, influencing that, but will he stay for the long run? I like to think so. Let's hope, you know, him and Kerkez can stay good mates, and, you know, Kerkez looks like he'll be in the long run, so hopefully he can convince his mate too. Look, if I was Real Madrid, I'd be looking at him. You know, he's one of the best midfielders in the league. But I like to think that, you know, he's completely bought into to Liverpool and the club, and I think we talk about future captain, and he does lead by example for his performances, but I really feel like he is Slot's boy on the pitch. You know, you see him directing the team, you know, you can see with his hand movements, he's telling them when to pass it and when to move it quickly. So look, I'm not going to ruin my week and think that Real Madrid's a possibility, so I'm going to go with that. He's going to be here for the long term, be the next captain.
Stu, what are you thinking?
So to start with, I'm going to say I'm a big admirer of Dom Szoboszlai. Love him, would love him to stay, but I love Liverpool more. And I'm sick of players yanking Liverpool's chain and getting off for nothing, or having the threat of that. And I think it's important that Liverpool wise up and get ahead of this now. Because I think there is something in it, and I think that there is a bit of a charm offensive beginning now. I've seen this morning as well, Vinicius Junior's commented in a way that suggests that they've been old friends from when they were kids. I don't know how that's possible, but I think it'd be naive to think that Madrid aren't really laying the groundwork for trying to get him on a free at some point. What has he got, a couple of years?
18 months,
Yeah, I'm very much of the opinion that Liverpool should not wait. If he doesn't sign this summer, sell him, and sell him big. I want him to stay. I want him to be the future captain, but I'm not having another situation where we're getting into a year from the contract. No way. Absolutely no way. His market value will be massive, I think, this summer. And if he doesn't tie himself down, then Liverpool have got to play hardball. And I'm sorry, they're going to have to play hardball with the player and send a message to other players that if you're not going to sign, we're not going to be messed about. And if that means your market value diminishes as we build a midfield that you are not central to, then that's the way it goes. Liverpool have got to put themselves first. He's too valuable an asset. He's too good a player to be messed around, because I think if he goes as well on a free, after we've had the Trent situation, after we've got Canate running his contract down, and there's been others as well, I am very, very concerned about that. So I also think there's an opportunity there if we are put in that position where we have to contemplate a future without him and take the money on him. I do think there are question marks about Liverpool's midfield anyway, the shape of it going forward, and I hinted at it before, and a lot of that has been based around McAllister in previous shows, but I think there's a bigger issue at play here, and that's Florian Wirtz. I think everybody wants to see Florian Wirtz continue to play as the number 10 for Liverpool. And for me, that means then you've got to think about what's behind him. I don't like the idea that we're going to play some kind of diamond with two up top in the future to fit Isak, Ekitike and Wirtz into the team, because I just don't think that is an effective formation. I think it brings its own problems, particularly in the Premier League. So I think that Liverpool need to be thinking about two facilitating deep lying midfielders behind Wirtz. I don't think that McAllister has the physicality to do that. Dom certainly does, but does he have the discipline to play? And does he want to play it in a sitting midfield role? I'm not sure. Gravenberch does. You know, we've seen that he can do that. But I think it does open the door to other questions. It also allows, I think, for the Curtis Jones, if Szoboszlai was to go and McAllister was to go, then I think there's no way in the world that you're selling Curtis Jones. You're bringing in top midfield players who are well suited and well defined to the role that's going to complement Florian Wirtz, and then you can play a 4-2-1-3. I want to see Liverpool play with wingers, and that's the only way that it is going to work really with Wirtz in a 10. So I think the Szoboszlai question, it's linked to a bigger picture anyway. And I would like whatever the ownership and what are the sporting directors are going to do on it, I'd like them to be proactive rather than reactive on this. I want them to have a clear pathway, a clear plan, and don't get bullied by Real Madrid again. I can't have it.
I think as well it's worth noting that whenever a player is negotiating a contract with Liverpool, which Dominic Szoboszlai is doing at the moment, you know, there are comments from elsewhere, and there maybe are tactics sometimes from agents or whatever to try, even though it wasn't his agent who said this, it was the manager, but to try and get themselves the best possible deal. And Szoboszlai said a few weeks ago it's not in his hands. He said he loves the club, he wants to stay, which I think to me maybe translates as he probably wants a little bit more money when he says it's not in his hands. But
happy with that, by the way. Give it to him. Give him loads of money. Absolutely sound like, because I'd love him to stay. But just let's not be in a position where we're getting messed around.
Yeah.
This is where I think the club have it in their hands, though. They have the power to give him the money, and I just think they should just give him the money, because it's a future you're building here. It's not. I think if you give him the money, I think he would stay till about sort of 29, 30. Then he could get his Madrid move. You know, he's in the first year of his sort of prime years. And I think when the club's in the power, has all the power to just give him the money. I know that's not how negotiations work, by the way. They can't just be like, oh, there you go. This might be part of the play. They might have an end goal in sight, but I hope they are clever with this one.
Yeah, just finally then, before we move on to the bigger picture in terms of individuals, Joel, Mo Salah gets a goal and an assist, wins the penalty, which he then scores on Saturday. I thought it was probably one of his best performances of the season, not just because of the goal and the assist, but just there were a couple of times he beat his man, which I don't think he's necessarily done loads this season. And I took a bit of a stick on social media on Saturday, because I had tweeted saying something like, you know, his powers are waning slightly, but he's shown that he can still have a role to play. And some people perceived that as a dig. It wasn't a dig. I love Mo Salah, but I think, you know, you can't deny that this season he hasn't been at his brilliant best. But I think when he puts in performances like he did on Saturday, you can still see how he can have a big role to play going forward.
Absolutely. I mean, we're judging against, you know, the incredible heights that he set last season. So there was always going to be somewhat of a drop-off with the age that he's reaching. I think what you can say since he's come back after AFCON is that the attacking unit, if you want to call it that, has looked a lot better. Now, Salah's individual performance, I think, has really been off it. And those key things, like you said, 1v1, the amount of 5-yard passes, he just seems to just pass straight to, you know, whoever the left back was for the other team, has been really concerning over a number of games. But I think yesterday, I wouldn't say he's back to his best, but he was certainly a lot better. I mean, the way he just throws off Karioglu, I think it is, for Brighton, it was really great. And then, obviously, he wins a penalty. I think I read first time he's won a penalty since 2019 or something.
I wouldn't not believe that. I couldn't believe he'd won the pen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's been a while. I mean, the way he's treated by the refs is ridiculous sometimes, but he does get the pen, and he puts it away nicely. I mean, he couldn't finish it any better. And then, yeah, I just think generally the attacking balance just looks a lot better with him in it. I think one thing you can't take away from him is his sheer strength, his physical attributes. So he's not as fast as he was, but there was a moment yesterday, wasn't it, when he was in a 1v1 race and you thought, there we go. Yeah. There's the old Salah. The only thing, you just couldn't take it that extra step to obviously get a shot off. But hopefully that continues. You know, I thought his role might change slightly. I thought, you know, when we were talking about these narrow midfields and getting, you know, two up top, I thought maybe Salah's role will slightly change. But it looks like he's, you know, going to keep him out wide and, you know, play where he's always had. I think, obviously, the link-up with Szoboszlai was amazing. I mean, that weighted pass, I mean, I don't think he could have weighted it better if he picked it up and put it down. It bounced just perfectly for Szoboszlai to obviously connect with it cleanly. And, yeah, more to come. Hopefully it continues. Look, it's not like we've got loads of options to rotate. So I think he'll be there no matter what. And hopefully he continue with goals and assists.
Yeah, just to round off, Kev, I just want to touch on the fact that, you know, I think he deserves a lot of credit, and the manager as well, because when he comes out in December at Leeds and he says those things, you do sort of think it's possibly the end for him at Liverpool, and there was a lot of people saying there's going to be no way back for him. Since he's come back from AFCON, he's started, I think, every game. You know, his performances haven't always been, you know, fantastic, but he's stuck to task. He's got stuck in defensively. He's obviously bought in again to what Liverpool are doing, or he's he's trying to buy into it, which again I think he deserves credit for. I think the manager again deserves credit for having dealt with that situation in the way that he has, and the team as a whole, they've not let it derail the season in a way that it possibly could have.
Yeah, and to me it felt like he was grateful for that, the tapping of the badge after the goal, and again when he's coming off, he's doing that. It's all just very grown up to me. So I like that. You should be allowed to make mistakes as long as you learn from them, and it feels like that's been the situation with Mo after what happened. I just think that right side was much better today. I feel bad for him because he's not really had a consistent right back behind him, and that must be challenging in its own right. He's always had Trent there. And that right side of sort of Jones, Szoboszlai and Salah worked really well. He had, I think he had the most successful dribbles in the game and created the most chances for us in the game. So I would agree with the fact that it's probably his best game for us. And you can see the hunger's still there with him. I mean, Mo's never lost the hunger, and that's another important thing. He's always fit. You can always rely on him. And like Joel says, you can't use the stick of the fact that he's Mo Salah to beat him with. He's just having a poor season, and that can happen. Still, by his standards, in terms of his goal contributions this season, it's still impressive for a 33-year-old. Listen, I'm glad that he's taking steps to come back. We really need him. We really need him fit and firing, and I'm glad that it was dealt with in a really mature, grown-up manner by the club and the manager.
I think another positive at the weekend, Stu, was that on the whole, we obviously spoken about individuals, but broadly it felt like a good team performance. And again, I don't think we've necessarily sat here loads this season and said, even when the result has gone in Liverpool's favour, that it's been a great team performance. So, obviously Brighton had moments. I think they started the game really, really well. But then I don't necessarily think it was until sort of later on in the game when Liverpool were 3-0 up and they'd won the game and they were comfortable, that they really then let Brighton have a real sustained spell. So I think on the whole it was a positive display and hopefully one that Liverpool can build on.
Yeah, they're growing in confidence. You can see it, and even the City game where it's snatched from them right at the end in a heartbreaking way. They'll come off the pitch knowing that second half they played well. For the majority of that second half, they were the better team, they were the dominant team. So again, that's a little message to themselves they could take from it. I think the Bournemouth game was a real blow, was a kick in the teeth. But I think there have been enough performances lately where you think, okay, it's starting to make a little bit more sense now. I think Mo coming back into the team post AFCON. I know we spoke about it before the break, but I think he really took on board. Although he didn't like the message and being dropped, I think he's really took on board the message and has become a greater team player since coming back. Even where he's not played well or been at the star of a performance since AFCON, I think that his role within the team has brought balance. Coming back in, but also I think he's worked really hard for the team. I think he's doing a lot of off the ball work, which perhaps was lacking and brought into question of, is he worth his place earlier on in the season? So I think that's good. As we spoke about Kerkez, we spoke about a few players now who are settling and starting to grow. McAllister's had a couple of good games lately, and that's always great to see. And Szoboszlai's just, on another level, it feels like at the moment. So there's lots to take from it. And it is great to just not overthink it and revel a little bit in a Liverpool performance that by and large was a very good one. I think there are still some issues, and I think those issues will continue across the season because we have a bit of an unbalanced, unfinished squad. And I think that the Liverpool's midfield, there's a lot of talk about how Liverpool's midfield is too easy to play through at times, but I think it's not just down to Liverpool's midfield. I think that comes from the fact of Liverpool's forward line is not capable of delivering the same kind of intense press that it once was. And I think because that's a thing, they are still pressing, but not with that same level of dynamism, speed, intensity. So that's giving the opposition six or the opposition's back line more time on the ball and able to pick lines through our midfield. Our defence, as a result of that this season, has dropped off. So we're becoming a team that is adjusted, the manager is adjusting, and you can see in games where we're just sitting a little bit deeper and we're open to that criticism of being a bit passive. But I think that's not by design, but by reaction to the
Yeah.
problems that are there within the team. But there's no doubt in a performance like that against Brighton, yeah, at times we're having to retreat and do that. But the most exciting part of the game, the most time that we're all familiar with and going, oh, there's Liverpool again, is when we're pressing and when we're cutting loose and when we're playing a bit more dynamic. Problem is, that can also leave us a little bit open against better teams. So I think, let's enjoy that. But I certainly don't think that it's a signal that all the problems are solved and it's going to be smooth sailing from now to the end of the season.
Yeah, I definitely don't think, I agree with Stu completely there. I think there will be other performances, Joel, between now and the end of the season where people are tearing their hair out. But I do think, with the exception of that Bournemouth game, which almost feels like a little bit of an anomaly in the sense that Liverpool sort of threw that away themselves by that crazy few minutes where they conceded 2 and Joe Gomez gets injured. The performances since Marseille, I would say, have been good on the whole. There was a lot of negativity after the defeat to City, and I understand why. To lose late on in the manner that they did at Anfield was hugely disappointing, and again maybe reflective of the mentality that's maybe been lacking at times this season. But I think in terms of the performance against City, I think there were a lot of positives to take in that second half. So I think, like I say, with the exception of Bournemouth now, it does feel like there's a little bit of a body of work that you can point to and say you can see how this Liverpool team gets better, particularly, in the summer if they're able to add a few more bodies.
Definitely. I mean, like Stu says, it's far from the finished article just yet. I think there's still a fragility in the squad, but the performances are certainly getting better. And one thing that's really improving is that we're being a lot better in both boxes, I'd say. So in those 7 games, we've had like 4 clean sheets. I think Alisson has looked better, at least, especially in the last couple of games. I mean, he made a couple of saves even on Saturday, which will probably be forgotten about now because we won 3-0. But, there were key moments when it was only 1-0 up in the game. And then going forward, you've just looked so much better as an attacking unit. I think, previously I was mainly putting that down to Wirtz and Ekitike, but I think one of the big positives on Saturday is that, Ekitike didn't start and Wirtz was very quiet, but we still got a decent attacking performance, and obviously it helps a lot when Salah, steps up his game. So I think there's a lot of positive trends. I think the set pieces is another one where we've been a lot better defending and attacking them. And just these key small, margins can make a big difference, especially from a results point of view. So yeah, hopefully we're looking back at Marseille as the time we kicked on, and I think now we're starting to see, we kind of know what the 11 is. Look, we're limited with the thinness of the squad, but I think it's good that we're starting to see, some rhythm in the squad. I think it's interesting. I think McAllister does, but was an interesting thing where if it was me, I would have had him out there, put him on holiday for 2 weeks because it looked like he was running around with ankle weights on it at one point. But I think with the 3 games in 6 days, he's looked a lot better. So I don't know if it was just a case of he needed more games to look a lot sharper from a fitness point of view. So if we can see that throughout the squad, if we avoid any sort of injuries, I think there's something we can definitely build on for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and I think it does feel like now, Kev, I mean, we've touched on some individuals earlier on, but it feels like there's a number of players that you can really get behind, which I think, again, there's times maybe at the start of the season when the new signings hadn't quite bedded in, and obviously the existing players were struggling. You were sort of looking for someone to be the hero, really, and there was only really Szoboszlai, Ekitike, who you could get behind. But I think now, you've got those 2 players who are still doing really well. Wirtz obviously wasn't great on Saturday, but on the whole, the last couple of months has been great. Kerkez, Konate's improved massively. McAllister has looked better the last few games. Salah looked better on Saturday. So I think now you can look through the team, and particularly the younger players, and you could see how, 3, 4, 5 years, a number of these players are still playing at a very high level for Liverpool.
Yeah, it's sort of small measures as well. It's good that everybody is sort of picking up across the board. I feel like yesterday could have gone completely different. And the manager's touched on small margins, and there's a few chances that they have. I think there's the Curtis Jones slip where, is it Diego Gomez? He wants it on his right foot, which is probably the wrong decision.
He missed a sitter in the league game as well, didn't he?
Yeah. And there's the corner as well. Is it 0-0 or 1-0 where Hinchelwood just goes over the bar? My point is, it just goes to show that it's not just good form and uptake in form. You need luck as well, and some of these moments sort of fell our way on Saturday. But again, it's down to patience, isn't it? I mean, with players getting better, and us talking about corners turned, I don't think that really happens. I think it's a very slow upwards trajectory. And in terms of the manager, you can't really say he's done a lot wrong. He's, like Joel's touched on, he's improved the set pieces. We look a lot better box to box. We're scoring a hell of a lot more. I saw that that's our fifth three goal margin win since January, and we only got 5 of those in 2025. So that's a huge upturn in form in terms of goal scoring, which is great. And the goals aren't just coming from the wingers or from Ekitike. They're sort of spread. Some set piece goals, Verge, Kanate. So across the board, you've got to say that we're picking up form. I'm just hoping that they don't think that's it, because we've got a tough old time to go. But as was said on one of the shows after the game, in terms of the FA Cup, once you get through the next round, you really are looking at teams dropping like flies, and before you know it, you could be in a semi-final at Wembley. So I hope that's on the radar. It's great to see Curtis come out and say that he wants to win. It was very definitive. I want to win the FA Cup and I want to win the Champions League. And there's ways that he could push a foot around that and not be so convincing. But I think we should be going for everything that we can. It is all around the injuries, because I feel like the squad is still terribly thin.
Yeah, the squad is still thin, Stu, and I think maybe saw on Saturday, Chiesa starts and works incredibly hard, and again is someone who is a bit of a cult hero among the fan base. But I think you can maybe see now why the manager hasn't always trusted him to start, particularly in big games. Rio Engamora is super unlucky when he comes on. He scores a fantastic goal. It is onside. It gets given offside. But again, he's 17. I think being able to trust him week in, week out is something that the manager can't quite do at the moment. And his minutes are obviously having to be managed. So I think, obviously, if Alexander Isak is able to get back by end of March, April, then it could be a real positive if Liverpool still have things to play for. But it does feel like they are maybe 1 or 2 injuries away from having quite a tough time.
Yeah, definitely. I think the manager was dealt a bad hand in terms of depth in key positions at the start of the season. There's no doubt about that. And the squad has been laid bare at times. But I also think that in the first half of the season, the manager didn't use that squad well. I think his own performance wasn't great, but I think since the turn of the year, he's done a brilliant job, really, in terms of putting out fires. We've seen the clean sheets now rack up. We've seen set pieces, a complete turnaround, really, in conceding and scoring from set pieces. So that's been great. And I think that he's now found a way, as we discussed a little bit earlier on, to try and mitigate against some of the problems on the pitch, the makeup of the team and the squad gives him. I think if Liverpool will need a lot of luck from an injury point of view to be competing on all fronts. Well, the fronts that are left for them from now till May. I think they'll need an awful lot of luck. There's 2 or 3 positions where you go, that's really one injury away from being a huge problem. And then there's 1 or 2 other positions where you think the player there is not exactly like setting the world on fire, but the manager doesn't have any options. Yeah. So there's things like that to contend with. I also think that we wrapped the title up so early last season that it didn't really matter that our form at the end of the season, post-winning it, dropped off and everyone was knackered. And McAllister, we never saw him again, and so... But we did see that impact in the Champions League. We completely ran out of steam against PSG. They were on another level of dynamism and fitness to us at that point in the season. Also, we were not at our best in the League Cup final against Newcastle. Again, we looked tired in that game. And I think that the squad has not grown since then. So my concern is, even if we are very, very lucky and don't pick any more significant injuries up, I still feel like come May we could be absolutely goosed. I think that, come May, when the prizes are given out, the FA Cup, the Champions League, even if we manage to get ourselves, plot our way to the final and still manage to get ourselves in the top 4 or 5, I think they're going to have to really dig deep into the reserves and have an even greater look to come out with things to show for it. You know, please God, that's the case. But I think it's going to be a big ask.
Yeah, a big few months ahead then for Liverpool, and a big few months ahead for the cast of Dear England. So we now have David Sturzaker, who plays Gareth Southgate in the hit play Dear England, which has come into the Liverpool Empire in March. I've seen it, it's brilliant. But Neil is having a little chat to him now.
And it is John Gibbons now, and I'm really pleased to be joined over Zoom by David Sturzaker, who is part of the smash theatrical hit Dear England. He is playing Gareth Southgate. David, thanks for coming on the Anfield Wrap, first of all.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me, John.
You've been on tour with this for a little while now. You're coming to Liverpool soon. We'll get on to that. But how's it been going so far? I gather the crowds have been loving it.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been really good. I mean, this is the first time that this play's been taken around the country. It's had previous stints in London at the National Theatre and in the West End. And it did do a 5-week stint in Salford earlier in the year. But this is the first time we've gone kind of far and wide. And yeah, I mean, the crowds have been great in general and seem to be really receiving it well.
Yeah, and I know football fans and non-football fans who've really enjoyed it. A couple of the people who put me onto it are football fans, Everton fans, which is a little bit of a shame, but that's fine. But they said they were talking about how much they enjoyed it, but also I know someone who's not into football at all and when not necessarily expected to love it, but said actually he felt it was more about humanity. It was a lot about mental health and about basically people supporting each other and things like that. And he really enjoyed it too.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And that's actually because there's not an assumption that anyone's going to enjoy it, but obviously there is a lot there for football fans. But I think where we get some of the sort of responses that we get that mean a lot to us are from those people who kind of got brought along by friends or family or aren't football fans particularly, and they respond to it, as you say, on another level. It's more universal themes. It's mental health, national identity, but also it's kind of just things that absolutely anyone can relate to. It's having a goal, what happens when you hit a hurdle or hit a barrier, there's a setback, how you come back from that setback. And obviously, you know, playing Gareth Southgate, and there's one particular setback that we all kind of associate with him, the 96 penalty miss. And I think that's really relevant, that the fact that he went through that himself and what he learnt in the aftermath of that, and what he can now bring that learning to bear on his time as manager and to sort of impart some of that information and that knowledge to the next generation of players. Yeah,
there is something very kind of, I don't know, old school operatic about this idea that, you know, England's big Achilles heel is penalties. Of course, it's been the biggest problem throughout tournament football, and the man tasked with solving it. There is something, you know, as I say, almost kind of an old school theatrical about that, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, there's a line in the play where I sort of talk about, you know, isn't this the reason why Gareth has been put here now? You know, it's because of that really personal experience, you know, intensely personal experience. It's that kind of, that bleed of the professional and the personal. And I think that's something that lots of people whose jobs are in the private eye, in the public eye, but particularly perhaps for sort of footballers, international footballers, the pressure that they're under, the scrutiny that they face. And I think that the bleed from professional to personal is really intense for footballers. And Gareth experienced it himself. I'm talking like I know him. I don't. I'm just portraying, you know, the Gareth Southgate as is written on the page. But certainly having listened to interviews and things of the real Gareth Southgate, that was obviously a hugely difficult time in his life.
Something else that was huge for him and he wants to do was reconnect the England team with the English public, and that's something that maybe he's not quite given enough credit for, because once that reconnection's happened, everyone just takes it for granted. But, you know, I remember so many people fed up with the team. You know, it's the usual, our millionaires, they don't care as much as we do. They were known for underachieving. And when as football fans, when a team underachieves, when you know they've got quality and they're not showing it, the easiest thing to do is to say, well, they probably don't really care. But I think what he did to reconnect, as I say, that team and those young footballers with the people who were going to watch them, or the people who were just putting on the telly to watch them, was quite a remarkable thing, really. And in many ways, he's an understated guy, but he's obviously got that leadership within him to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And I think you're right. There is, the way he initially comes across is relatively understated, or certainly it's very, very calm, very considered, very thoughtful. I think he is all those things. But there, if you look at the amount of footage that I've watched by way of sort of research, you see the huge drive and passion and love for the game. And love for his players as well. I mean, that really is evident. The way that he supported them, and I think there is that trickle down. Whoever is, and I say this in a kind of nominal way at the top, because I wouldn't have thought Gareth Southgate is someone who particularly believes in that hierarchical structure. But the person who's tasked with kind of overseeing something, their approach, the way that then filters down to all the people involved. So I think that would definitely have had an impact. And he was very keen to make the team cohesive. I think actually some of the former players, the sort of pre-2016 players, some of whom obviously sort of carried on into Gareth Southgate's squad, but even very recently, they've said that during that pre-2016 time, it did feel a bit like there was a collection of very talented individuals as opposed to a really cohesive team.
Tell us a little bit more about the cast. I know you alongside Samantha Womack, who feels like a Scouser. I don't know if she's done a lot of filming here. She's done a lot of work here. She had a big TV show.
Honorary Scouser.
That's so we're claiming it. I don't know whether she likes it or not. I don't know where she's had her choice, but she's a super talented actress. I've seen her in theatre actually in Liverpool as well, and obviously she's great on TV and film. But I know she loves doing theatre, and it must be fun to be alongside her.
Oh, it's brilliant. It's fantastic. I mean, to have someone with that level of experience and commitment and enthusiasm for theatre. You're right. I mean, she's done so much telly and film, but keeps on coming back to theatre. I think, I don't want to speak for her, but I think because she loves it. She loves the experience and the kind of you get a very special kind of community feel when you're doing a play. There's a group of sort of 45 of us cast plus all the other departments on the road together for months on end, and that sort of breeds really special relationships and connections.
Yeah, and especially when you're doing something like this, which is about all people coming together. And
yeah,
you have a big sing at the end. You must kind of feel like you want to charge through the walls afterwards, and then straight out into the city.
Oh, it's magic. I mean, I mean, it is a spoiler, but I don't think it will spoil people's enjoyment of it to say that, we got Sweet Caroline playing at the end and we're up and jumping and dancing and so are the audience. And it's just, it's a really fantastic moment each night. And I do feel that we're very privileged in that. There's half a dozen guys in the company who are making their professional theatre debuts with this show. What a first show for them to be involved with.
So it's coming to Liverpool. It's at the magnificent Liverpool Empire from Tuesday the 3rd of March to Saturday the 7th of March. But obviously people listen to this from other places as well. And just before that, the show is at Wimbledon, which is Tuesday the 24th of Feb to Saturday the 28th of Feb. And then after Liverpool, it travels to Birmingham, to the Birmingham Hippodrome from Tuesday the 10th of March to Saturday the 14th of March. They're giving themselves big Mondays off. I approve of that very much.
Monday, travel day.
Rest the voice, rest the limbs, and sort of go again. So 3 more, and Liverpool's second to last. So to use a football analogy, you're going to leave nothing on the pitch. Everything
That's
out
right.
there.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, actually, we've got Bradford next week as well. We're in Woking this week, Bradford next week, and then, as you say, Liverpool and Birmingham. So after this week, it's 4 weeks left. I mean, we started rehearsing this job at the beginning of August, so it's been a long stint, and it feels like we're on the home stretch, and it's going. I mean, those final those final couple of weeks, the final few shows, it's going to be such mixed emotions. But yeah, we're looking forward to it. I think everyone's really looking forward to Wimbledon as a city as well as a theatre.
Yeah.
Sorry, Liverpool. I meant Liverpool. I mean, we are looking forward to Wimbledon.
You can look forward to both. You can look forward to both. We're looking forward to having you. Samantha back amongst us where she belongs. And we're really looking forward to having you. So those dates again for Liverpool on the 3rd of 7th of March is at the Liverpool Empire. And David, on stage in Woking tonight. I won't say break a leg because that means something different in football, obviously. But go well tonight.
Thank you,
I
man.
hope you enjoy it.
Cheers, John.
Thank you very much then to David and to Neil. Before we finish off chatting about Nottingham Forest and the next few weeks for Liverpool, we're going to do Album of the Week in absence of Neil. I've been elected to pick Album of the Week this week. It's a lot of pressure because it's got to be within the space of the last 6 months. But this week I've gone for Somber, spelled Sombr. I barely know her. He was nominated for a Grammy, I think, but very, very good. Nice, easy listening, but he's got some good tunes, so go and check it out if you fancy or don't. I'm contractually obliged to do this, so but yeah, we'll go on then back to Liverpool, Kev, and the next few weeks. Obviously it is Forest at the weekend. They've got a whole week now to prepare. When you sort of look at the next month or two and Liverpool's top 4 or 5 hopes in comparison to Chelsea and Man United, where do you stand at the moment?
I very boldly said after Sunderland that I really wasn't sure about if we'd make it. I'm feeling a little bit more hopeful now, just off the back of Brighton as well, because we did that without Gravenberch as well, without Ekitike starting. We looked bright. I mean, if you look at our fixtures on paper, there's 5 very, very winnable fixtures before we hit Everton away. But the way the season's gone, it doesn't really play out like that. I think if we're to make top 4 or 5, it's probably a lot more to do with how other teams get on rather than just on ourselves. And the fitness thing that Stu's just put the willies right up me, because that's terrifying. You're right. Losing Gakpo, for instance, losing Ekitike, losing Wirtz. These are all one injury away, and we're in deep trouble. So
I'll shake on losing Gakpo. Sorry.
I think he's another one that deserves a little bit of praise for how he's been getting on recently. And
he plays well at the weekend.
A lot of people forget that he started 23 times last season. All that's dropped off, I mean, it's the most important thing that's dropped off, is his goals, is his output. So if he could start scoring again, please, I think we'd be in a very, very good position. But yeah, for me, it's all about the fitness. It's about keeping everyone fit. It's great that we've got a week until Forest, a little bit more time in the training ground. But I did see a picture of Florian Wirtz on the train to London, so I don't know if they had yesterday off or what, which is good, by the way, because I believe in balance and I think the players should get time off. But yeah, a lot more time on the training ground can't do us any harm.
Yeah, although you say that, I think Liverpool actually very rarely, Stu, play well when they've had a week off. But yeah, I think we have seen sort of things that have obviously been going on in the training ground. Set pieces, for example, have improved massively over the last couple of weeks. So hopefully that will be the case as well. Where do you stand on the top 4, top 5 hopes? It felt like a big one, the game week of Sunderland, because obviously Chelsea and United both drop points, and then Liverpool are able to capitalise on it. So they need to do that, don't they? They need to make sure that if Chelsea and United drop, that they're there to capitalise.
Yeah, definitely. And I think they should anticipate that those teams should drop. They've had a new manager bounce, and that might be sustained, but you can't take that as read. And I think Liverpool, Kev just mentioned the fixtures there. Liverpool need to make hay while the sun's shining, even though it's February and it's absolutely grim. Liverpool do need to take advantage now, because there are some big away trips coming up, notably going away to Man United. And a lot could change between now and then, but at the moment, you wouldn't fancy us going there. So I think there's every opportunity still. Mm-hmm. Every opportunity. I don't feel we're yet in the position that we were a few years ago. After winning the title in the following COVID season, where it got to the point we were so desperate that Ali scored and cut headers away at West Brom. So I don't think we're that desperate yet as it got at times that season. But I think if we were to drop more points in what are clearly very winnable games coming up, we might be giving ourselves a mountain to climb. We do have... I had to grow. I mean, there was one sense of like, yeah, we don't have to deal with a Sean Dyche Nottingham Forest, but there is now a sense of new manager bounce their first game. I think,
and it's a home game, and they'll all be up for it.
Definitely, but the one little caveat I'm going to say to that is Pereira, when he went to Wolves, he got them straight away pressing and playing a bit more front foot, and actually that might suit Liverpool than having to face Arne Slot's favourite term of the season, another low block.
See it.
So that might play in our favour, because what I don't imagine that their new manager will want to do is coach against the way that he wants to set his team out for the rest of the season, just for this one-off game, because I think that sends a mixed message. So it might actually help in a weird way, but we'll see. But it's Liverpool are going to do it. Now's the time.
Yeah, it's a big end to the season for Liverpool, Joel. I think they've got United away, Chelsea at home, Villa away, all within the last 4 games, I think. So they want to be in a position where they're not going into those games necessarily having to win all of them. You know, maybe a point away at Old Trafford at that point might be a good point, and the same for Villa Park. So I think, you know, they want to try and, as Stu said, make a bit of hay while the sun shines. Forest, though, are a little bit of a weird team for Liverpool. We know that Arne Slot last season, he was obsessed with them, really, wasn't he, for quite a while, until PSG came along and dislodged them. But that defeat early on in the season at Anfield, it was disappointing. They've not actually beat Forest since March 2024, and even then it was that crazy sort of last minute winner from Darwin Núñez. So they're very rarely comfortable games for Liverpool. Are you feeling confident?
I don't know about confident. I mean, you're right, Forest was living rent-free in Arne Slot's head for quite some time. I think it's interesting, like what Stu said. It's hard to tell whether this manager change will work in our favour or not. Obviously, there's the element of the manager bounce, but I think because the crowd's going to be up for it, it's a little more difficult for, as we said, for them to just sit completely in on a low block and not attack Liverpool at all. So hopefully that will, go into our favour a bit. But we all know these are the games we've been struggling against the most this season. You just hope that they can bring a bit of momentum. As we've already said, the attacking unit has looked a lot better going forward. So you'd like to think that we'll have too much for Forest. Players like Ekitike is going to be sort of well rested. You hope him and Vert can bring it in a big game. Another big away performance from Vert would be great to really sort of break them down. I think if we can get an early goal, I think it'll change the game drastically. I think then we could hopefully just sit in and then maybe take the game away from them. What we don't want is a real narrow margin, or conceding early, or losing a set piece early on. But the team have got to be really up for it. I think, as you said, up until about May, it's probably as easy a run as you're ever going to get in the Premier League. That said, it won't actually be easy, but we've got to capitalise before we go away to United and play Chelsea, and ultimately it's only 3 points to United, 2 points to Chelsea, so we can close that gap pretty quickly if a few results go in our favour. So hopefully we can capitalise on a long week of rest and go straight into it. Yeah, well, a big week then for Liverpool, a big few weeks, big few months for Liverpool. We'll have all the build-up to that game at Nottingham Forest ahead of Sunday. But for now, thank you very much to Stu, to Kev and to Joel. Thank you very much to Paddy, who's sorted the images, and Andy, who's sorted the audio. And thank you very much for watching or listening. We'll see you soon.